Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us as we provide to you instant reaction of Tottenham Hotspur finally beating Chelsea at home. It's been a while since we've said that. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And I'm bringing to you probably the most positive panels I've known in my time here at Last Word on Spurs on the back of a really, really important win for Spurs, which consolidates our place inside that top four. As I said, listen to the show for the first time, iTunes, Spotify. Make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you give us a like. Of course, we're live on YouTube right now. So once again, thank you ever so much for all of your incredible support. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start the show. You know the score by now that we are delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That, of course, is the Beavertown bang opposite our South Stand. We are very excited to get back down there this season. We're hoping to bring to you at some point during this season another live show. Hopefully it's on Tottenham banking themselves a Champions League final spot, an FA Cup final spot, and going hard guns in the top four. See what a win against Chelsea does? Completely carries me away. Carrying myself away, and the wonderful panel I've got tonight joining me. I'm joined by, look, he's back on Last Word on Spurs, fresh from the game. A couple fresh from the game. We've got the wonderful Lee McQueen in the house. Macca, how are you on the back of that?
Mate, it's been a rush to get back, but I'm back in my digs and absolutely loving it. It's fantastic, lovely stroll out from the ground up to where I parked the car. I was on the Laser Crush just beforehand, very, very good at the old Beavertown, of course, and witnessed a fantastic win. I don't care what anyone says today. I am getting carried away because we've just beaten Chelsea. We've just scored 2 goals against Chelsea at home since Dele Alli scored them 2 headers all them years ago. And yes, go check your stats because that is a correct one. Unbelievable. But I'm well getting into this, mate. Cannot wait.
Mate, blessed and great to have you back on Last Word on Spurs. Joining you back on, look, very, very happy. We haven't had her on since the departure of Matt Doherty, and that smile is beaming ever so more. We've got the wonderful Talia Coren back on Last Word on Spurs. Tal, love to have you back in the building. How are you?
Thank you for having me. All good. Can't complain after today, can we? So no, also fresh back from the game. So yeah, I think excited to discuss. I mean, like you said, look, all rounds, I think a lot of people were very apprehensive going into this one for obvious reasons. And look, we did it. It was great. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Joining Tal, Macca, making up our panel tonight. One man you can always rely on to bring the positive vibe to Last Word on Spurs. Always. He's got lots of love. It can only be the wonderful Darren Hartman, actor, of course, back on. Dal, how are you, mate? You haven't stopped beaming since we've begun. How are you?
Listen, I'm living life right now. I'm in a very, very good place. I nearly tempted fate. All week, I was like, it feels like it's about to happen. It feels like it's going to happen this weekend. I didn't, and I've allowed it to sit in my chest, but now it's coming out today. Oh, happy days. Happy days.
Mate, honestly, we are going to be in for an absolute stormer of a show. I got to say, the amount of love I've had throughout the weekend and before this with regards to my personal life, I'm delighted to announce, I'm announcing a transfer here, that my beautiful little baby boy was born on, what are we now, Saturday in the world, bless him, Friday, Saturday. It was an amazing experience. Like I say, second time for me. It is the best experience in your life, and capped off with a Spurs win. Listen, it's the greatest feeling in the world. And look, what can I say? On the back of a Spurs win, my wife's got him now for what looks like be a late shift. So bless her. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you so much for you guys. We will have some maybe testing times in the next few weeks in terms of noise control, voice control. But we'll be trying to do as much as we possibly can. It's those late nights that might suffer. Macca and Dow might know much about that with the FA Cup to come, Champions League to come. And Tal might know about it as well, coming back on Last Word on Spurs. So again, thank you ever so much for all of your incredible support. Let's go straight into it. Macca, let's start with you. It is victory, finally, in this derby for Tottenham at home. What a performance, second half especially, and what a result. And isn't it fitting that it's Spurs' 2 academy graduates that score to down, as Dan Kilpatrick put it so well, the Chelsea Galacticos, really, because we do earn that bragging right. That's the first we've been over Chelsea since 2018. The gap to Chelsea now is 14 points. It's 1 win in 11 for Graham Potter. And what I thought was great at the end is Spurs fans chanting Chelsea get battered everywhere they go inside the stadium. Absolutely magic, absolutely beautiful. Macca, some of the massive 3 points for the club.
Well, yeah, I mean, you stole my line there. I mean, Chelsea get battered everywhere they go. When that second went in, when one of our own scored that absolute rocket, most people were still trying to down the rest of their drink or, finish up in the loo before getting back to their seats or whatever it was. But there's so much love for Oliver Skipp to put that in the back of the net. And I was so pleased for him as well, because I know we'll get into detail with him in a little bit, but he had an opportunity against West Ham and he just kept going across the area, didn't he? And I was shouting from my seat, shoot, and he didn't. But today he did, and he scored an absolutely wonderful goal. And I remember Winksy, as an academy player, scoring his first goal against West Ham. Harry Kane scoring, I think, was it in Europe? Was it when he scored his first goal in Europe for the club? And now Skippy's done it. So absolutely amazing. And like you say, I mean, it's weird, isn't it, when you say academy graduates and Harry Kane's name still comes up. He scored 268 goals for the football club. But absolutely brilliant in the set. Look, in the first half as well, to be fair, it weren't champagne football. I don't think there was champagne football there at all today. But it was much like West Ham, like to grind, to be solid, to not be broken down, to try and take some opportunities where you can in the first half. And then in the second half, we just turned the dial up. And it's exactly what happened in West Ham. We've done exactly the same thing today. Another 2-0, another clean sheet. Fraser Forster, 6'7" in goal. It's Fraser Forster. It's Fraser Forster. Like to a man today, you can't really complain about them, because I thought they were very good. Like you said, to put all of that in context, this is Chelsea, and this might be a different Chelsea. This might be a transitional Chelsea. This might be a whatever Chelsea. But the fact of the matter is, we beat Chelsea 2-0, and since we left the old White Hart Lane and a bit of Wembley, as you just touched on there, I don't think we've beaten them very well at all, have we? It's been an absolute rubbish fixture for us. Yep. So today, to get the win, to keep the clean sheet, to keep the momentum going, there's a bit of space, Rick, Talia. Telling you, Darren, there's a bit of space now. We're only 4 points off of third place. How the hell are we even saying that? But it's true. It is a fact. Yes, they've got a game in hand on us and they've just won the Carabao Cup, but we're only 4 points away from Manchester United. We're going to the FA Cup game next week in good shape. So happy days, Tottenham. Come on, let's be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Tal, if I can bring it over to you, for all of Chelsea's struggles, I mean, there was some pressure, you'd say, on Spurs going into the game to really try and consolidate fourth place, because, you look at that Chelsea run they've been on, it was almost that kind of classic concern of Dr. Tottenham will see you now, because of the nature of what Spurs do when they face teams that are hopelessly out of form. But we did respond really well second half. I thought, together as a squad, we again showed under Stellini this real, I would say, real strong team work ethic that, arguably for Spurs has been lacking against some of the big sides. We've seen it now against City, Chelsea, and arguably 2 of the last 3 fixtures. And now that gap now, as I said to Lee there, 14 points. Chelsea are sinking fast. Another lovely stats out there for you statisticians is that Chelsea now closer to the relegation places than 4th place. Now, madness, right?
It is, and I think this one was the big one, because we do just roll over for Chelsea, and all of us, every time we don't get it. And I think this one was the one where it's just like, right, we beat City. For some reason, we're their bogey team. It was great. We win. Let's go. Beat West Ham. Great. Let's go. Then it's like, this is the one, and it felt like this was kind of that one that was going to either turn people backwards a little bit or just really think that actually, this is the momentum. Like, we're onto something. We're doing something. And I'm so glad that, it went the way that we wanted to. And I think today we just showed up completely differently to how we usually do against Chelsea. It just felt like straight off the bat, we wanted it more. We knew what we were doing. We followed that game plan. There was definitely a sense of togetherness and team spirit, and it was just a lot tighter. And I think a lot of the time, that's what we don't have. It's do we want it more than them? That seems to be lacking. And I think, this squad now, they have been together quite a long time for the most part. The injection of the new people, they're passionate. They want to play. They want to win. And I think it's just building a really good recipe, And I think, like I said, off the back, 3 home wins. They're just motivated, and I think it was good. Look, all round today, I think everyone played their part defensively, especially second half, super tight. And yeah, like you said, look, it's been a weird old season and the table's in a funny old position, but we're there, right? We're up and around the places still. So all we can do is keep winning. Our next 5 or whatever look good. So we've just got to keep going. But today is the positive or positivity that we need to keep going. So happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. Down, I'll bring you in. I mean, like I said, it's Spurs' first time they've beaten Chelsea in that new stadium and actually scored their first couple of goals against them. But I think what was really, really good for me to see, I don't know if you agree, Dal, and I know you probably will because, bless you, that's the way you are, that we didn't really get jittery. There was no real concern when we went ahead. It was almost, how are we going to add to this now? There never felt any point in which we were lacking a sense of control in that game when going ahead. And Romero didn't get booked, which I think says it all about just how comfortable that performance was, Dal. Sum it up for us.
I think that's the great term, comfortable. We were very, very comfortable. And we're not used to being comfortable in a game against Chelsea. And that's what I was really impressed by. I think the mentality of this squad is growing week in, week out. We're starting to see that. And I think Lee, you posted about it. And I always talk about when we have a week to prepare for a game. We're a very different Tottenham when everyone puts their mind onto that game plan and it's executed the way it was today. I think people are talking about Chelsea being in transition and not being the Chelsea that they were in the past. Let's remember how expensive that squad is. That's a football management dream that's been put together. We all play Football Manager growing up. That's what their chairman is doing. He's buying everybody and trying to make this pot work. So if it clicked and we got battered, people say how great they were. But remember, we clicked. We are clicking. We are moving forward. There are teams falling away this season that haven't been, but there are teams that are now consistently starting to get it right. And we are one of them right now. And that's what Spurs fans need to embrace. We are playing a way that is getting us consistent results. We're getting over the line. And this is where we need to be doing it. It's the business end of the season. I didn't want it before. We needed it now. And it's starting to click. Chelsea get battered everywhere they go. West Ham get battered everywhere they go. And if you come to Tottenham, you'll get battered. That's what we're showing people right now. Don't come to our gaff and think we're going to roll over. We're not rolling over no more. Game over. Tottenham are back.
Loving it. Sorry, Dal. Just quickly with that. Dal, can I ask you and Talia as well? Looking at the business end of the season, right? We did this last season. I mean, I know that you don't like the blue book, some of you, and you think stats and whatever, but if you go back and do the analysis, it is literally exactly the same. We had the exact same points. We beat Man City and then we lost to Burnley. We beat Man City and then we lost to Leicester. I mean, the same things over and over again, which is very frustrating and really annoying, whatever. But if we do get the same thing over and over again for the rest of the season, we kind of know that we're going to go on some outrageous run. We've got 13 games left now. We won 10 of the last 15, I think it was, last season. So just coming back to you on that points at the business end of the season, this is where it really matters, isn't it, Dal?
100%. This is where every point really matters. This is where the move in the table is so crucial. Talia, you quite rightly said, it's a crazy season this year. People are dropping points where they shouldn't be. Teams are not in position that their chairman or their squad thinks they should be. But right now, if people can say how bad we played at the beginning, we're in the mix. We are right there in the mix. We're in striking distance of everyone. And again, destiny is in our hands. We're not relying on anybody else dropping points. It's all in our hands. So let's go for it. Let's absolutely go for it. And I'm a very positive Spurs fan right now. And you know me, people. That's how I roll. But right now, Spurs are giving me something to be positive about. Even our worst player is a success story right now. Let's just look at that one. Put that in your pride. Yeah. He is looking awesome.
It's mad. You know what, Dal, I'll stick with you. We did it from Christian Stellini post-match, who said our desire was this to win, play a great game and fight for every ball. And we are happy for the fans, the club, and of course for us and Antonio, who is still at home. My expectation is that Antonio will be back with us this week. It gives me belief about the team. This is the most important thing. I feel that the team follows the process that Antonio creates and they take more responsibility without Antonio. He went on to say Antonio called me immediately after the game. He was really happy. Now is the moment and the week that Antonio will be back. We have to give many compliments to the players. One thing that has really, Dale touched me with Stellini, is how he very much is brushing off any kind of sense of self-praise. He's either giving it to Ryan Mason, he's giving it to Antonio Conte. But look, whatever you say, and whether he won't take credit for it, he has made Spurs a bit of a fortress at the moment. Last 3 home games, 1-0 against City, 2-0 against West Ham, now 2-0 against Chelsea. When you look at those results that we've had, that's some extremely impressive stuff. And you add to that the fact that I think it's 4 Premier League wins in 5, 3 in a row at home, and 4 out of our last 4 is under Stellini, the deputy. I mean, can you ask any more from what the man's doing at the moment in temporary charge of the club?
He has done a phenomenal job. And I think we have to also give praise to the players as well, because it's like that moment when Dad's not home. and everyone suddenly go, hold on, we'll need to step up. And that's what everyone has done. Ryan Mason, Stellini, the whole backroom staff, that first 11, the squad, even you. And that's what I say about our squad. We've got far more leaders than we've ever had before. You've got the Romeros, you've got your Højbjerg, your Bentancurs, you've got your Kanes, you've got your Sons, you've got Richarlison, you've got players who are they're natural born leaders. So when you haven't got dad on the touchline, beckoning and barking and shouting and screaming, you've got to lead yourselves. And Stellini's uncle is going, listen, dad's not here, but I know what he wants and you know what he wants. So don't let me have to give you a bad report. Do it well, and we're all happy. Because I want to look good and you want to look good. And we're looking good. And I think that's the beauty. Stellini's not coming in and reinventing the wheel. It's not like he's changed formation and gone with a brand new way of playing. He's just given those players the knowledge and gone, this is what he wants. We know we can do this. Go and do it. And we are. So, you know what? It says all about the man when all he does is put praise on others. That tells you what a great human being he is. And we are very lucky as Spurs to have him in that staff. And I know Conte values him highly. So listen, let's keep Conte on the phone. I don't mind if he takes another week. If you want to stay in Italy and just put a little tan on, stay there. Uncle got you covered. He's looking after things well.
You know, it's mad that you say it there. I mean, you know, when you look at Stellini and the way he has managed this team, you know, in between the periods and when Conte's absence is, that there isn't that massive, I think, clamour to desperately bring Antonio back if he isn't ready right now. I think we acknowledge that he's a world-class coach. There has been that, obviously, suggestion that under Stellini, coming over to you, Maka, that maybe the players have looked a bit more free, if that's the right word. I think you've said it before, that when you watch Antonio up front, he very much is coaching those players actually on the touchline, whereas maybe with Stellini, they're given a little bit more licence to run. And, you know, again, you look at the facts I say there, 100% winning record. The aggregate, 7-1 scoreline across the 4 matches. 4 Premier League wins in 5, the 3 in a row at home and 4 out of 4. I mean, I don't think you can ask for a little bit more, can you, Lee, from what the guy's given to us so far in the absence of Antonio?
Well, me and my mate Steph, he'll be watching, right, fella? We just came back from the game together. We were chatting about this, and he said, yeah, do you not think it's a bit of a coincidence that Conte come back for Leicester game? We got absolutely battered 4-1. And I was like, oh man. And by the way, just as a sideshow, classic, isn't it? Maddison comes back for the Spurs game, runs a show, wins 4-1. And then, guess what? Who ain't available yesterday against Arsenal? Maddison. You could not make this stuff up, man. We're giving a title to this lot or what? No, I mean, come back to Conte. I think I get it. I get what people are saying. I do think it's a little bit disrespectful, if I'm brutally honest, about kind of leaving him at home and all that sort of stuff. Stellini, I've just written this down, actually. Davis today, very calm. Longley, very comfortable, very measured, very calm. You know, Højbjerg, calm. You know, it's Stellini. It's the Stellini effect. They're calm. When Antonio's on a touchline, it is fireworks and it is up and down. And it is, you know, I think I said this the other day. I was at the Palace game. I was just watching Conte battering the right wing back, and then on the other side battering the left wing back. Like, it's just how it was. Like,
to be fair, Back, and we've been doing that all season ourselves.
I know. To be fair, but so I think there needs to be an air of calm around it. I think that's what Stellini. I think he talks really well in his press conferences as well. You know what you're going to get. If you're sad, like me, I watch all the presses. You know, all the bits and bobs and all that sort of stuff, and he comes across really well. But the fact of the matter is, this is Conte's team, this is Conte's system, this is Conte's tactics, this is everything to do with Conte, and he's taken all of the or most of the direction from Conte as well. So, look, I mean, I think as a team, I think Stellini, the man said it himself, right? It's a team effort. We all do it together, and I think that's what it basically is. It's not just one man, and that's where I think the disrespect thing comes in. But I've got a funny feeling that, you know, that when Conte comes back, he's going to be even more fired up, like in a good way, though, right? I mean, in a good way, Hartman. You know what I mean? Because I think that he's missed. This guy's been grieving, and I know we've talked about it a lot on the show, but this guy's been grieving, and he hasn't really had a chance. He's had some downtime now at home with his family, with his wife and his daughter, and, you know, people around him. That's really important. I think he's going to come back with almost like a, right, team, where are we? Okay, we picked up some points with that. It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprised me at Tottenham. It wouldn't surprise me if we went on won our next 10 games. It would also not surprise me if we lost our next 2. Do you know what I mean? But I do think that there's something there that, I don't know, things happen for a reason sometimes. And I just think him being away for this prolonged period will make us better in the future. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, listen, I mean, coming to you, Talia, when you look at the fact that definitely, you know, that West Ham performance, we saw we were solid in the first half, turned it on in the second. And I make that point, you know, the 4 wins out of 5 now in the league, the 4 clean sheets out of 5 in the Premier League too. There is a almost real workman-like, organised base there that Spurs work with. I've got to be honest with you, I don't think we'll see far too many comfortable home wins against Chelsea like we saw today. I've got to say that, you know, as arguably you could say first half Spurs didn't really get going. Chelsea didn't really threaten Spurs. And I think you have to give Tottenham a lot of credit for the way in which they're set up. And I think the thing that we're all noticing with Stellini, you agree here, Tal, is that he's very concise with the message he delivers. That's both in press conferences, post and pre-match. So what it seems with the players, every player at the moment seems to know their jobs, know what they're being asked to do. Is that the vibe you get with him so far in this temporary charge?
Definitely. I think they, you know, must be really receptive of his ways and the way that he goes about doing things. And I think they all really like him. And, you know, that matters. And I think that is reflected in the football. You know, I think, to be honest, I think a lot of the kind of mentioning of Conte the whole time is because we are winning, and you know that kind of praise is falling to him, and he doesn't want to take that praise off of him. And you know, whether it is because of him and because Conte's not on the touchline screaming or not, he kind of doesn't want to be that front man and is very much like, oh no, we're still doing what Conte wants, we're still doing what Conte wants. But I think as fans, you know, we're kind of looking in and being like, but since Conte hasn't been here, we have been on the front foot a lot more. We have been trying to run, you know, we're scoring more goals or doing those things. So there is kind of that element, and he's, you know, in a defensive way, just trying to be a bit like, no, like we're still following his orders. We're still doing what he wants. It's still his goals. I think even Kane mentioned that today, you know, like we're still doing what the gaffer's kind of big plan is. Because I think people, you know, classically just get carried away. But look, I think as you know, this interim, he's obviously doing an amazing job. Having 100% record is incredible. But no, I just think that it's positive, and I did kind of mention it before as well. But I just think the players take more of that responsibility internally, and now we do have this collective group that do know each other, and you know, we're not on mad squad rotations, you know, that they're understanding how each other work, training in and out, playing this crazy fixture schedule together, and it just feels like they're motivating each other. They want to do it for them, want to do it for the club, want to do it for Conte or Stellini or whoever. It's just this one big collective group that I think we have missed for a while, whether that be from negative results or style of play, and you know, all of those things together. I think now just all it takes is momentum, right? And I think this is what we have seen over the last few weeks or months or whatever. And I think, you know, having that togetherness, winning, doing the right things, getting people up again, you know, actually on the front foot, hearing the crowd react. You know, we've had a lot of home games. It feels like it was a bit stagnated a little bit, but I feel like, you know, we've had a lot. They hear the fans, they're encouraged, they score, they're happy, and it all helps. And I think he definitely has a big role in that. But I think it's definitely bigger picture stuff, and it's what's going on in the dressing room feels a lot more together again, which I think is what we need to push on, win this next streak of hopefully 10 games. But like you said, you never know with Tottenham, but it's good. The wood is, you know, slowly being shifted.
Yeah, no,
I completely agree.
Yeah. Dal, come over to you. You know, we mentioned the fact that, listen, we can't get away from the fact, and Stellini has said this, that essentially Conte is still micromanaging things behind the scenes when it comes to the in-game tactics, when it comes to substitutions. I mean, this is the thing you have to bear in mind, that Conte is watching that game today. And I said this in the last show, he's almost a prisoner to the camera that is being shown on TV. He can't see everything in which can be happening in and around the football pitch, which again does almost have to have a real reliance upon the likes of Ryan Mason, upon Christian Stellini, to be able to also judge what they feel is right in terms of tactics and what is right in terms of changes. But he said that the players now, as you have alluded to, Dow, are taking a lot more responsibility in Conte's absence. Stellini said, yes, it is like a teenager that has to become more mature. The team react in this way, and they take a lot of responsibility. Everyone, players that play and players that are sometimes not playing. This is why I'm so glad I stay here and to keep the chair of Antonio warm. Now, it's interesting he says that because, Dale, you've been on Last Word on Spurs, I think, for some of those Chelsea defeats that we've had. Mm-hmm. And there has been points in seasons where Spurs have tended to massively crumble under severe pressure points. Now, what, again, has been the question about Spurs, maybe under Antonio, is that when that pressure has been on, despite obviously the way Spurs did handle that Champions League run, and maybe talking about, you know, FA Cup ties, big game matches Spurs have had to get over the line. we haven't always shown that pedigree to be able to get firmly over that line and get to that next level. But as I said at the top of the show, there was very, very rarely in that game today that Chelsea looked like they were going to break us down. Is that the great thing that you're looking at today, thinking, if we can now go ahead, and it just again re-emphasises the importance of not falling 2-0 behind, because we've now got the ability to keep that back door shut.
There's a number of things to highlight what you flagged up there, Rick. And I think looking at how we are performing right now, I know that people say that Conte being away, everyone's kind of alluding to it. Is it Stellini? Is it Conte? It is still Conte. This is still his project. And I think, as you said there, Rick, about Conte having to watch it from the TV, that's his view. And I think having that different angle for himself, not being in the player's ears, as you said, Lee, when he's screaming at the left back, screaming at the right back, being away from it, you suddenly look at things differently. You have a little bit more confidence in the person because you go, oh, wow, I'm not there and this is what you're doing. That's what I wanted you to do. And now I'm seeing more of it. And they'll come back and there'll be a better union between some of the individuals. I think this gap is going to be so important and so beneficial for everybody. Conte, as everyone has known, has been going through a lot. And now he's gone home, he's had a hug, he's had that moment with his family, he come back rejuvenated. He's seen players play in ways that he's been asking them to. Let's remember, people talk about negative Spurs in the first half. Conte said in every interview, that's not how I want them to play. I don't give them that talk. I don't want them to do it. Even today, it still wasn't flamboyant and fast football in the first half. It was still very much the team building in a confidence and growing into the game. By the time we got to the second half, it was like every player, as crackers love to talk about, most of the game is played up here, not with our feet. And it was like at half time, everyone went, we can do this, We've got this. Like, we're in control of this. And I think that's very much a Tottenham thing right now. That half-time moment of going, boys, they ain't got nothing on us. We can take this game. Let's go and do what we do best. And then we really push it on. And the control was there. We were comfortable. Every man knew their job. As you quite rightly said, Lee, everyone was calm, relaxed, no panicking. Romero he looked at their front line and was like, none of you have got nothing on me today. Not one of you are going to do a thing.
He was absolutely outstanding today. I mean, that is the Romero that everyone wants to see week in, week out. I mean, the bloke
controlled.
In the stadium, mate, in the stadium, when he goes in, you'll back me up on this, right? When he goes in for one of them challenges, you can hear it. You can hear it go crunch, and it just makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Doesn't it, Tal? I mean, he was outstanding.
I said, do you know what? I think through this conversation, the biggest word that we're missing is the word trust. I think, Conte being away, I think he's going to learn that to trust the players more, that they know their jobs, they know their responsibilities, and maybe he doesn't need to hold their hand as much as he has been or shout down their necks and stuff. And, really kind of learn that they are aware, they can do it. I trust them to do it. And, equally, I think there's that trust within the squad now. Yeah, like I said, just through building that relationships and being together that bit longer, they now trust them. And I actually don't think there's any weak links as much as there were, before, not to bring back Doherty and the whole agenda vibe, but, people didn't want to play it to Doherty because he was going to lose the bloody ball. They'll pass to Emerson. They'll do it to whoever they want now because I think they trust. Of course, people lose the ball. Look, we're still a first, one-half team for whatever reason. We can't play two.
Good point. Really good point. Yeah.
I think the trust is being built, and that is what we're praising. I think more than the style of play or more than the manager or who's in the dugout or whatnot. It is just the trust that is building is helping shift the momentum and drive.
Talia, just on that, I mean, you mentioned about Emerson and, people trust him and stuff now. You go back and watch some footage from, 10 weeks ago, maybe pre-World Cup, right? When he was getting booed when he was coming on, for example. No one passed to him. No one would there was no trust even in the team, let alone anything else. People were hiding. You got to put everything into context. I totally agree with what you're saying. You look at Skipp coming in, right? People forgot how good he was because he's good. This kid is good. He's only 22, and people forgot how good he was. He's come in, he's played 3 games. He's been absolutely outstanding in all 3 games that he's played on the trot, and he's scored as well. And if you go and listen, or if you subscribe to it or whatever, might be on YouTube, he's done an interview with Spurs Play. And he talks like a Conte guy. He's so intelligent about the game itself of where they want to be. I mean, there's some really good stuff happening here. And, again, it's a win, it's one win and all that sort of stuff, rah, rah, rah. But I think as fans, put it into context, and especially us Tottenham fans, and rightly so, we're desperate to win something. We're desperate to you see Man United winning another trophy today and all that sort of stuff. We're desperate to win something. So therefore, when we don't win a game, it's all doom and gloom. And then we do win a game, we're like, yeah, okay, please, mate, might be the thing. But 22 years old, Skipp, Emerson, the turnaround on this guy is just...
It's transformational, isn't it? It's transformational, Macca. It's transformational.
Unbelievable, Rick, honestly.
To be able to withstand the amount of hate, and I will use that word hate that guy was getting online, offline, in the stadium, outside the stadium, and then to be able to put together not just one, not just two, but now we're seeing a consistent run of displays. It says everything that Spurs were chasing 40 million Pedro Porro from the moment that window opened to the right at the end of it. And now Pedro Porro only comes on to make his home debut today.
As a forward. As a forward as well, because he can't get aside.
As we record this, we're at the end of February. And this is a guy that we're chasing all January to come and play for the football club. And I can't speak higher of Emerson Royale. And I know a number of the Spurs players do listen and watch Last Word on Spurs. I think we always try and play it fair. We always try and tell it as it is. And if Emerson is watching, I hope you are, my friend. He's doing absolutely magnificent right now. He's doing brilliant. And listen, I think, no doubt about it, I think Darren picked up in earlier that we are so much more, better when we're together. I think we saw that today. We've seen that, in Spurs, in some of the biggest results at home, that when we are unified and we are all going for the same goal, there's no doubt the team can achieve great things. And I think it says everything right now that without Antonio, we are getting those results. Before we do discuss the story of the game, Dal, look, Spurs are in a position where, look, we're in the FA Cup still. You're back with us, of course, for Sheffield United. Champions League as well to come. You're back with us for that as well. It could be all going honestly wrong. Could be, hopefully not. But we're also now top four-wise now. 4 points clear of Newcastle. Just been beaten in a final. You know what's going to do that to them mentally? It could absolutely crush them, or it could have the opposite effect. Should we just be excited now of what's to come, given how frustrated lots of us have been during several parts of this season?
Be excited. What's the point in being a football fan? What's the point in supporting Spurs if we can't be excited right now? We're still in the Cup. We're still in the Champions League. We're in the top four. Be excited. Back the team. Be behind them. As you mentioned, Eric, talking about Emerson getting battered on the touchline everywhere. When we're now backing him, you can see him playing with a smile on his face. You can see the confidence. He is loving his game right now. And let's do that. Let's do exactly the same. As fans, let's love every moment. Let's get behind him. There's a lot to play for. And we are in a position where we're looking all right. It's all starting to work. So I'm excited for this week. This could be a great week for us. I don't think that Milan tie is dead and buried yet. Let's go. They're coming to our gaff. Let's give it to them there. And let's be positive. Like, we could be doom and gloom if we wanted to. We couldn't try and pick holes. But as we said before, what's the point? It's great times, and there are potentially fabulous times ahead. So let's go for it. Come on, Spurs. Let's have some good times.
Agree. Tal, I'll come over to you. In a weekend where third place United face fifth place Newcastle, and they don't obviously play their league fixture, we have Fulham sixth place and Liverpool seventh place only to draw. I think all of us felt going to this game, this is exactly the kind of, opportunity where Spurs normally do slip up, where the teams around them, they drop the points and we never, ever capitalise. I think it's quite nice seeing now, 2 or 3 weeks in a row that Spurs have been able to build upon their performances, build upon their results. And there is now a little bit of a gap in terms of that top four race. Yes, obviously, of course, Newcastle have got their games in hand. There'll always be that argument that maybe, look, some would prefer points over games in hand. Where do you stand for that, Tal? And how excited should we be now for what, as Dow has described, that business end of the season?
Of course, points on the board are better than games in hand, but they are opportunities. And the thing is, all you can do is worry about your own team. You can't predict or, control or worry about any of the teams above or below you, because it's nothing to do with you. They're going to do what they're going to do. All we can do as a club is push on, keep going, build the momentum and hope for the best, and if we keep up the streak, hopefully we're going to get the points on the board and make up the difference. Like you said, look, I do think there is this shift in momentum and, feeling of trust and togetherness that is building. So I think, look, of course, that is going to be motivating. If you see that there's an opportunity, all we ever want is to think, oh, we have to capitalize, we have to do this, you know. So now it's like, you know, things are working in our favor, so we've got to keep that going, we've got to capitalize. And look, everyone in this squad wants Champions League football. They do. If we don't get it, it's a failure, right? That's, you know, the kind of thought process. It's always been the same. And, you know, there was a point, how are we in the top four? How are we doing this? I don't know, funny old season, blah, blah, blah. Whatever anyone thinks, we're sitting in fourth. The opportunity is there to stay fourth or go higher, whatever you want. But we've got to do that. That's it. It's that simple for me. Points on the board is what matters. And, you know, if they're not there yet, we've got to focus on getting them. So fingers crossed we fulfill it and focus on ourselves. I think that's it. You just get carried away, and a lot of people do with everyone else. And we're the only ones that matter. So let's go.
Agree. Macca, I am going to bring somebody else into it or some other team into it, but I'm going to give you that chance to have that rallying cry on what we've got to come for the rest of the season. You know, when you think Todd Bowley and Clear Lake Capital, they bought Chelsea Football Club in May of 2022. And in that time, I think they've spent close to 600 million on transfers alone. And I think they've already outspent. I think they've already outspent what I think our chairman has during his actual reign at the football club. I mean, when you look at them at the moment, Chelsea, many will look at the fact that, you know, we've beaten a team that's very much in transition. There's a huge amount of money spent on that squad there. You're talking about some really world-class players that lots of teams would have wanted during that World Cup. I mean, does that give you a lot, again, of optimism and hope that Spurs have gone out there and put on not just a good display, but a really top display against a side that has got a lot of talent? Yes, it's not clicking, but these are the games that you have to win. You need to win. You should win if you do want to be in amongst that conversation come the end of the season. And then again, you add the FA Cup and Champions League into that.
Listen, mate, do not forget we signed Clinton NG, right? Do not forget. Yeah, we signed this type of player. Look, just before I answer that question, I just want to give you an immense stat, right? There's 20 Premier League teams in the Premier League, right? Not a lot of you knew that, but you do now, okay? And out of them 20 teams, the informed team, the team with the best record in the last 5 games is, come on, drum roll, please, the mighty, the famous Tottenham Hotspur. You couldn't make it up. I mean, you're looking at Arsenal's form: lost, draw, lost, win, win. City, lost, win, win, draw, win. United, lost, win, draw, win, win. Spurs, win, win. Yes, we got the loss, win, win. We got the best form in the top 4. We've got the best form in the league right now. That's amazing momentum. Everyone's talking about Manchester United's momentum. It is amazing. It is great. The momentum. Spurs have better momentum in the league than Manchester United do, right? We're in the FA Cup. I'm going up to Sheffield, actually. So all your away fans, if you're watching and you're up there, come and say hello, because I love it. So it's my 3rd away game of the season, actually. And I'm going to Wolves as well. You couldn't make that stuff up either. So I'm actually going to Wolves away as well next week. So really looking forward to these away games. And we've got to perform in that Sheffield United. It's going to be carnage. I know we'll come to it towards the end, but beating Chelsea today with all that talent, as you said, 600 million quid and all that sort of stuff. Look, my father-in-law, I mentioned it quite a lot, and somebody bantered me on it on Twitter today, but my father-in-law's a Chelsea season ticket holder. And he was at my house when I came home earlier, and I was like, oof, that's going to be tough for him. He's sitting there. I just kind of walked in and went, Chelsea get battered everywhere they go. He weren't happy, to be fair. But he even said, like, we had a conversation about the game or whatever, and he said, look, we're rubbish. He said, we're completely disjointed. We don't know where to play. We don't know what to do. I think Thiago Silva getting injured today was massive. It was a huge thing because he's their linchpin.
I agree. Yeah, it was a big loss to them in that first half. 100% agree.
Lost to them, and they just looked lost completely, didn't they, Rick and the team and the panel? They just looked like they didn't know what to do, and that was testament to us, the way we set up and the way we defended, and credit to us. But also, you know, yes, it's Chelsea, and yes, all the records have gone before, but this isn't Chelsea like with John Terry in it or Drogba in it or whatever. Do you know what I mean? This is a very different. But you've got to capitalise. And Tottenham of old would have crumbled, like you said earlier. We'd have crumbled. Oh my God, it's Chelsea, but we didn't. And then we've got that momentum. We've got the best form at the moment. The last 5 games in the Premier League, we keep that going. Our next league game's against Wolves away. We've got Sheffield United in a week. Come on, guys, girls, viewers, and listeners. We should. Nothing's played on paper, but we should be wanting to go out and give everything for the matches. And by next Wednesday, not this Wednesday coming, next Wednesday, we should be walking in there with into that Milan game with massive confidence and massive wins under our belt, and I think we can do it. I genuinely think we can do it.
Agreed. And what we are going to do is we are going to go for our first break of the show. For our listeners on audio, taking into that break, you're going to hear from an absolutely delighted Christian Stellini, who maintains his 100% record as Tottenham Hotspur's interim head coach. Lots of love for Christian Stellini. For our watching audience here, we've got over 1,000 of you plus watching us live. Again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Honestly, thank you so much for all the love I've received throughout the show, and the guys here receiving lots of love. Lee, of course, the wonderful Darren Hartman, and the superb Talia Coren back on Last Word on Spurs. Just to share you some of the stats from today as we bring in some of your listener statements from the game. So there you go. 2-0 Spurs against Chelsea. Shots 8-10. Chelsea edging it on the shots and also edging it on possession. You can see 59%. Spurs edging it on the shots on target. 10 fouls apiece. 2 yellow cards for Spurs to Chelsea's 3. No red cards either side. We're going to come on to that. How can we not? The big VAR debate and just exactly what happened in that stadium. I'm sure Macca and Talia were even so much confused, even further, being in that stadium as to what happened today and how that transpired, that we had a reversion of a red card and how that even came about as a decision, who knows. But I do, as always, want to bring in some of the listener statements that we've had today from some of our wonderful viewers and loyal listeners to Last Word on Spurs. So we're going to rattle through these. Dan Firmish says, do these great results continue when Antonio Conte comes back, or is there more about the players being more relaxed under Stellini and Mason? Dan, hopefully we've answered that question for you. I think the case will be, we'll have to just wait and see as to how this plays out. Matt Martin says, if Conte does leave in the summer, should Stellini be given a chance? Absolutely superb record. Phil at Loveday_P says, time for Skippy to step out of those shadows and become a more regular. And with Pap in the wings, with his huge potential, we are looking really, really strong in that midfield. So do the panel agree? Do you still want that lock picker? Well, Phil, I'll answer that for you. Yes, I still want that lock picker. I feel Spurs definitely need some form of an alternative in there. When the games are going tight, when you have got 9 or 10 behind the ball, you do need someone to break that team down. Dan Law says, is Enzo Fernandez really worth 100 million based on today? And if so, what is Skippy worth after that performance? And I agree with that. And Kendall Nicholl just simply says, Stella Stellini. David Lynch already calling for Stellini to be the manager of the month. I'll let you decide whether it's a good or bad thing, given how that manager of the month normally puts a mocker on things. But look, from a Spurs perspective and going into that, say, the game itself, lots of talk always about the starting lineup. Tal, will come over to you for this because Spurs were unequivocally unchanged from last week's win against West Ham. It meant Richarlison continued ahead of Son and Davis, staying at left wing back over Perisic. Stellini did emphasise on Friday, as per the wonderful Ali goal, that there was no new injuries and suggested that Son being dropped against West Ham was purely on the basis that it was exactly what the player needed after suffering from a recent problem in the last few weeks. And as we saw, Son, given that opportunity to come on to make a difference today, and also as we saw last week, I think he played fairly well. Son did have an opportunity when he came on, but look, we've seen now Richarlison really, you'd arguably, does need a run of games in that side to really almost get himself going. Clement Longley still in that left-sided centre-back slot, as you can see there. And Oliver Skipp's fine display against Pierre-Emile Højbjerg kept him in the side ahead of Pat Matasaru, who gave a wonderful interview to Sky on Friday. Really, really, positive for the future. Nothing downbeat about that guy. He wants to win, wants to be the best. That's what you want to see at your team and squad, of course. So that team did read Forster, Romero, Dyer, Longley, Emerson, Skipp, Højbjerg, Davis, Kulusevski, Kane, Richarlison, with a bench of Austin, Sanchez, Tanganga, Perisic, Porro, Sarr, Danjuma, Lucas, Son. Tal, give me your thoughts on that, because I think many were maybe expecting Son to maybe be recalled back to the starting lineup after his goal, of course, in the week before against West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was the only obvious change. I think most people expected either that or it was just going to be a switch for Sonny for Rishi. I think, I wasn't mad about it, if I'm honest. I think, a lot of it does go back to what we've already, kind of been talking about, is just building these relationships and not trying to force the squad into rotation if we don't need to. And look, I know the fixtures are coming thick and fast and we do obviously have to change stuff, but don't fix what's not broken. And I do think, there is that element of bonus of just keeping things as they are, knowing that everyone's got a part to play. And, you know, of course, tactically, if things should switch, and they should. But I think everyone earned it, you know. There was no one that kind of came out that West Ham game that looked like a weak link or didn't do their job or, you know, needed to be subbed early. I think it was just a good all-round team performance where everyone did their part. So, you know, going into this game, it made sense to kind of be like, trust you boys, do the same again. Let's keep at it. Let's keep going. You know, there's plenty of opportunities for everyone else midweek and at the weekend again, you know, to switch up. Everyone will get their chance. And I think it is just, you know, really kind of you know, I don't even know what the word is, assuring players, I guess, that it is a whole squad thing and it's not just to start an 11, it is everyone. And, you know, you do need those subs to change the game sometimes, you know, just because it hasn't been last weekend or this weekend or whatever, doesn't mean it won't come. But no, like I said, I think everyone earned their place. I think that, of course, goalkeeper-wise, we didn't really have many options. And I think we're all in agreement that Forster is stepping up, a really underrated performance again today, just really solid, no nervous kicking or playing out from the back. That's good. You know, our back five, whatever you want to call it, again, really, I think just understanding each other, have that connection between each other now, and there is definitely a solidity around it, which is great. Midfield too, great considering injuries, everything. And look, again, Skipp today will come on to it, but showed exactly why he kept his place. And up front, what's to change, right? It is just the Sonny to Rishi thing. But look, I think it's a bonus. Look, Son came on last week, got his goal, great. So I think that's, you know, why it happened. But look, it doesn't hurt. He's tired. Let him rest. We did it without him. He came on and subbed, and I'm sure midweek, whatever, he'll be back in the lineup. So no, all good from me.
Yeah, I think we have seen, coming over to you, Dal, that, you know, essentially, you know, we've given Son a lot of opportunities. And you'd argue that maybe Richarlison hasn't been afforded those. I mean, injury's been obviously the main reason why he hasn't had those. And I just think sometimes as a player, they do need to be played into form. So, I mean, Dal, on the basis of that lineup, would you have disagreed too much in relation to Richarlison starting ahead of Son on this occasion?
I was very happy when I saw Richarlison was starting. I was very, very happy for a number of reasons. I think Son does deserve to be out of the team right now. And I think as a professional footballer, Son will say himself, hasn't had the best run of form, dips in and out, he peaks and it troughs for him. Taking the heat off of him is a great thing for him because he's not had that opportunity. We've seen twice he's been dropped, he's come on and scored. So we're all expecting a goal today. Richarlison is a player who I believe is a great asset for our front line, especially in a Chelsea game. What his physical presence up there, his hold-up play, how he busies himself, how he takes a hit and gets up and he's in players' faces, as we saw with a red card that was and wasn't. He's that player. He plays passionately, he plays aggressively, but he's talented. And I think Richarlison today was a great asset to that team today and helped us get over the line in the win that we got. And I think it gives us different options. And I think now we're starting to see that the squad is starting to shape itself in the way that we needed to. We've got lucky right now. I know we spoke about Skipp playing well today, and I'm so happy he is. And starting to see the Skippy that we saw coming through when he first burst on the scene. But let's all be honest, when we saw that we only had Skipp and Sarr, we were worried. It really shows us that there's not the depth that we've been looking for. But what we have happening right now is to step up. And I think that's the beautiful thing to see. Man for man, everyone is stepping up. Going, I've got more to give. I can do that. I read Sarr's interview as well. Beautiful interview. Him as a man, but you understood how the team works. Son looking after him, how he feels that everyone is there supporting him. This is what we're doing right now. The trust, the format, the team, the ethic, the work, everything is coming together. So you looked at that 11 and I trusted that 11 to do the business today. Yeah,
listen, you're spot on, Dale. I agree, and I echo those sentiments, what you said about Sarr. I mean, anyone that hasn't checked that out, please go and read that on Sky Sports, the interview there with Pat Mattasar, because he's a player that really, arguably, you'd say, he's got a lot of self-ambition, which I'm sure he will want to try and fulfill as much as he can, and we hope that is going to be at Spurs, that is for sure. Maka, just to get your thoughts on that lineup, because, again, I think that was going to be the common denominator today as to how Stellini would have set up. Would it have been Richarlison? Would it have been Son? That is my little one. You can maybe hear in the background there, given his rendition of the not so great Richarlison song from him, but he'll be learning that for sure. He definitely will be. But you know, Richarlison, he left anything out on the pitch, didn't he? It was a battling from start to finish. You'd argue that maybe it was lacking a little bit of quality in the final third. But where do you stand on that whole debate about Richarlison, Son, about who starts at the moment? Does it even matter?
No, I don't think it does. I agree with everything Talia and Dow said as well, to be fair. I mean, we were, when the team came out, me and my mate Steph both went, yes, when Richarlison was in, because Richarlison filled it in to run. But Son, you don't need me to talk to you about Son. You know that I'm one of his biggest fans. I absolutely love the bloke, and class is permanent, form is temporary, and all that stuff. And that will come out. I think he'll still end up scoring 15 plus Premier League goals this season. You can earmark that, stick that in your blue book. But I think Richarlison deserves. I think also Richarlison did. A lot of the comments are coming through for the audio people on audio. He worked the socks off. Everyone's saying it, and he did. He absolutely nice one. TDID forever. Is that Chelsea fans crying in your gaff, Ricky? Nice work.
To be fair, my son makes up about 15 of them, so probably it is. Yeah, those were the original fans, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think Richarlison deserves. If it was me, and thank God it isn't, but if it was me picking the team for Wednesday, I'd start Richarlison. And if you're going to start, saving Kane, for example, he might mix it up. He did against Preston. He didn't play Kane at all. And if he does the same thing, even though I think that's our biggest game of the season, in my opinion, on Wednesday, if he does rest Kane, for example, I'd stick Richarlison as a number 9. But personally, that's what I would do. If he started Danjuma and Richarlison and Lucas Moura, I wouldn't be worried, because I think that there's some definite strength in that attacking lineup now. I'm not saying he should do it. Maybe he needs one of the top 3 in there. But look, I think somebody said it earlier. It's not just a first 11, it's a squad. You start looking at that bench now. You've got Danjuma to come on. You've got Moura to come on. You've got Sonny to come on. You've got Pedro Porro to come on. Do you know what I mean? Like Pape Matar to come in to solidify if you need. Like, that is miles better than what it was just before the January transfer window, of course. So I wasn't worried about it today. And I think the other reason, and I'm not sure how much we're going to give him, and credit to the comments, actually, because they've just put it up and I've forgotten the guy's name. But it was Ben Davies's 300th game for Spurs today. And if that was Harry Kane or Heung-min Son or whatever, like Harry Kane, he'd be getting plaques and everyone would saying, oh, you've played for 300 games. That's a massive milestone for him. And I thought he was absolutely outstanding again.
He was great today. He was good.
He was. And this is a guy that is 6 out of 10 gentleman, whatever you call him, whatever. And he has been under criticism from a lot of people, as have me as well. You can't win stuff with the likes of Ben Davies or whatever. But he's never played wing back in his life. He's only played it twice, and this was the second time. And again, I thought he's offered more than Cess. If I'm not sorry, Cess, if you're watching, bud, but this is the competition for places, right? At the end of the day, I think he's offered in 2 games more than what Sessegnon has offered, quite frankly. So, I think that fair play to him coming into that game as well. And when you talk about the starting lineup, when that was against Chelsea, when that was announced, I was like, yes. So I said, come on, Richie's going again. And I was very, very happy with me.
I think...
Go on, Tom.
I know, I was just going to say, I think this is a conversation that we haven't been able to have for a really long time. We haven't been able to be like, does Rishi deserve to start instead of Sonny? Because our squad depth has been so thin. And actually now we're having these conversations. It's a really big positive thing, because that's what big teams that want to win have to do. They are forced into changes. There is rotation. There is this whole squad attitude. And I think for a really long time, it's been the same 11 on repeat, unless someone's injured. And then there is, a B team player that steps in. And that's kind of been what we've been used to as a team. And now with who we've got, we do have that depth. And, we're going to have more of these conversations. And as players step up, if they might come in for the odd game midweek and do an absolute belter, they're going to be hard to drop. And there will be do they deserve to start or not? And I think, we have to kind of slowly, hopefully train ourselves that everyone's in that team, everyone can do the job and do the task, and actually having these conversations isn't a negative, do they deserve to start over them? It's actually a positive, like, right, they're doing something right, let's give them a run, see what happens, and change the way we look at it. So it's quite exciting, really.
It is.
Rick, I know you're going to come back over to Dale, but I just want to say something before we kind of move on, because I know we're going to start going to something else. But I just want to come back to the statistics, right, on the league tables, right? So I said, go and do your analysis and all that sort of stuff. So I've done a little bit beavering away whilst we've been talking. And the same game week, match week, last season to this season, Tottenham Hotspur, the great Tottenham Hotspur, were 8th in the Premier League, right? And we had 39 points. we'd only scored 31 goals, and our 5 games to the run up to that match week was loss, win, loss. We were in the mire. We'd also lost more games at that point in the season than we have this time around as well. And obviously we've won less because obviously with the points total situation as well. And just to put that into context, behind the top 4 at that period, we were 7 points behind the top 4, playing the amount of games that we've played today. So for those of you who turn around to me and say, we cannot get in the top 4 because we are 7 points behind Manchester United, rubbish, utter rubbish. We can do it. And it's that togetherness that Rick talked about earlier that makes us, the bigger, wider issues. I think a lot of us are on the same page around the bigger, wider issues of what has to happen in the football club. But right here, right now, for the short term, we've basically got, 14 games left, 15 games left. Sorry, is it 13? I don't even know how many played. We've got 13 games left, right, to go.
Just don't call them cup finals, Macca. Don't call them cup finals.
Exactly. But look, the point I'm making, I'm looking at the screen now. I'm looking, it's absolute disbelief. We're 8th in the table this time last season, and no one gave us a chance of getting into the top 4. Yet we're sitting in the top 4 now. Still people going, I don't think we're going to get in. Go and have a look at their fixtures, right? Just in and around you. The next fixture, forget Arsenal. I know it's very difficult, but whatever. If they go and win the league, fair play to them. I'll say that now. Fair play to them if they go and win the league. Man City's next game is Newcastle. You couldn't make this up. Guess who Man United are playing? Liverpool. Like, hello. So we could actually go and beat Wolves, and we are right in the mixer because Liverpool on a charge against United, and there's so much football to be played, people. It's just the biggest game of the season is Wednesday at Bramall Lane. That is the biggest game.
I agree. Honestly, Macca, you know how I feel about the FA Cup. I mean, if anyone knows how I feel about if anyone doesn't know how I feel about the Cups, just go and listen, or if you can bear it, I don't want to make you go back and listen or watch that Forest exit. But yeah, massive game on Wednesday evening. It is going to be, massive for the club, massive for everybody that wants Spurs to finally end this trophy drought. But listen, we're again in a position where Spurs have still got a favourable second leg in the Champions League. We're going well in the top 4. So let's dive in. I mean,
one more stat. Sorry, Rick. One more stat before we dive in. Because this is an amazing stat. I'm so sorry, the viewers and listeners, I am. But we've scored 15 more goals in the Premier League this season than we did for this time last season. And that is everybody saying we're not good enough. And all the injuries we've had, like Talia, you just mentioned it, all the injuries we've scored 15 more goals than we did this time last season.
No, you'd never think that, would you? Unless it's pulled up. You'd be like, we're not scoring enough.
100%.
He's a stats man. Back and taking over the stats book. Before we have to go for our next break, we are going to cram in VAR in a second. But we had a first Barney inside 90 seconds where Sterling unleashed an incredibly horrendous dive to try and win a penalty. VAR did check the incident and deemed it not to be a foul, but was also deemed not a foul, which I was a little bit surprised about. Many are thinking that I'm going overboard with this, and I saw it was mentioned online earlier, was Thiago Silva did appear, I used the word, did appear to throw an elbow at Romero. Listen, it wasn't the most, you'd say, venomous elbow, but there were still elements of contact being made there. On another day, does that get looked at with VAR? Who knows? But I think Lee mentioned a very good point earlier that Thiago Silva having to go for that knee complaint maybe changed the perception of how that game was going to go. He fell on Kane's leg at the end of a Spurs break. And just to give you the depth of quality in Chelsea's squad and what they could do and bring on, they brought on 75 million Wesley Fofana, who was prepared to 35 million Benoit Badiashile as his replacement. So just to give you an idea there of what we were up against today in terms of, maybe value of players, maybe in terms of not that are currently in form, it just shows you scarily just Chelsea's options in abundance, although they can't seem to get a run of results together. They've got some extremely talented players there that at some point, whether it's under this manager or another manager, you can't see how that won't click eventually because they're spending so much money there that they will eventually get it right. Hopefully it won't be right for a long time. But in terms of first half of Spurs, we had a lovely, decent effort from Højbjerg, deflected off onto the post. And you do wonder and worry thinking, when those chances don't go for you, is it going to be your day? Forster saved to deny Sterling, although the flag did go up for offside. I'm not going to lie, was a little bit concerned by a bit of flack there from Forster. It wasn't the most confident save, but I agree with what Tal said earlier, that as the game went on, I think he grew in confidence, we grew in confidence, as Talia gives us almost a Popeye impression to believe that we should believe in the stamina and the belief of this Spurs squad. But let's cover VAR now before we do go for the next break, because it was an absolute mess. And for Lee and Tal that were in that stadium, I think, again, this is another point we have to add, that for anybody that's there, they don't really have a clue what's going on. There's no real even commentary or any understanding of understanding what's happening. So just to try and talk you through that incident, Havertz and Emerson were shown yellow cards. Then after what seemed to be a VAR check on Ziyech, which was shown as a red, only then for referee Stuart Atwell to then be told to go and look at his monitor and make it a yellow. Now, there is that argument, Lee. I know you might have had a chance now to watch back the incident. My question is going to be, what about the yellow for the foul and the yellow for the push? And even more so, why did Atwell show Ziyech the red before even checking his monitor? There's just so many, Lee, inconsistencies with VAR right now. That honestly, how do we continue to, week upon week, be the subject topic and the header topic of so many shows?
We were like this. We were like, what? Because what we saw, like live. Don't forget, we had nothing. Talia and I were just watching it. We weren't watching the game together, although we were, if we weren't, you know what I mean. But we was at the game and we were watching the game, and we were like, what's going on? Because basically, Stuart Atwell booked a Chelsea player. Now, in that melee, I couldn't see what Chelsea player booked. You just said it was Havertz, right? We didn't know that. So I'm assuming that he's booked Ziyech, right? Because that was the whole melee thing. Then he's taken ages. He's walked all the way over the other side of the pitch to catch Emerson. Then he's booked Emerson. And we were like, what? And then we thought he was finished. Then he walked all the way back over to the pitch where Ziyech was, and he gave him a red card. And we were like, what? And then he went to the monitor. Yeah. It went for ages. And then it was a VAR check before. So on the screens in the stadium, it came up VAR check before he'd given the red card. And then so it's VAR check, and we're thinking, oh, he's checking for a card. Then he's gone over and given them red, and we thought, oh, the VAR check has said it's a red. Do you get what I'm saying? And then he went over to the monitor, had a look at it, and then gave me yellow. We were like, I mean, I know that sounds completely confusing for anyone listening to me, because it is confusing. Because it bloody was, wasn't it? So it was, you saw that.
From we are, especially like in the South Stand, you can't see that action very clearly from where you are, right? You can't tell who's who to some degree. Like, of course, you kind of can, but what actually happened was not clear one bit. So you expect being in a stadium as kind of a paying fan to at least have some level of clarity about what's happening. And I feel like it was such a long period of time that happened with zero commentary, zero like replays on the screen, nothing. It was just dead silence, have some cards, walk away, come back, a really long pause. VAR comes up on the screen, but it didn't say what it was checking. So it was like, what is this? Took about 2 minutes. Then it's like, violent conduct or whatever. Give a red. Everyone's cheerio on a mad one, happy as Larry. Then he's off to the monitor, coming back, wipe out. And you are kind of just left baffled. And I said, like, it's so bad that you're in the stadium and you have to get out your phone and you're trying to look online to see if someone can tell you what's happened, or one of your friends is messaging a group chat or whatever. And it's embarrassing. And I think it doesn't help the cause of the refs, VAR, anyone, because week on week, game on game, it's a farce, right? It just keeps changing. And I think the standard of refereeing is so poor, and it's got continuously worse. It's really showing now, and I think everyone's the same. Every week we're chanting, you don't know what you're doing or whatever, and you're just like...
It does take over so many podcasts and so many shows, the refereeing standards.
Just quickly, before you review it from the TV perspective, you guys, like Tal, obviously we were in the stadium. When it was reviewed on the monitor, and then he rescinded the red card back to a yellow card, what I couldn't understand is they were reviewing if it was a possible red before the ref had given the red. Did you get what I mean? So that's what I'm still, even as I'm talking out loud now, I'm still confused.
It makes no sense.
If they're reviewing if it's a red, surely he'd have had to have given the red to check if it was a red.
Because exactly. I think that's exactly what a lot of people are picking up on, the fact of that. Yeah,
exactly. I think that is the confusion, and it's I've seen so many things. Having to read it back retrospectively is even more confusing, because people are like, "Oh, I think someone said, you're not allowed to rescind or yellow or look into it and turn it to a red. So you have to give a red for them to be able to say you can go to the monitor review and change your mind. So as silly as that is, that's the rule, and that giving a red gives you options, which sounds ridiculous.
And by the way, we obviously we don't get replay in the stadium, but obviously on our phones and whatever. Although I will say Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, you need to sort the Wi-Fi out because it is not great when you're in the stadium. But anyway, so we're trying to get like the reviews, and not being funny, Ziyech, he basically punches him in the face with a hat with his palm.
It's a hat. With
his palm, and he basically punches him in the face, and it is a red card all day long. So whatever he was seeing on that monitor was utter flannel. Because it was a blatant red card. I mean,
most people are more annoyed, I think, that he already had a yellow for Ziyech in his hand before any of this. So why was the yellow not firstly for the foul, and then retrospectively that second yellow would have been for his shove? Because that was a foul, right? Shoving someone in the face is a confirmed foul. Of course, we think it's a red because if you're shoving someone in the face, it's a red. But there was another foul that was involved. So it was like, how did we end up with one yellow when the outcome either should have been a straight red or at least two yellows?
Yeah, the whole thing was a mess.
You mentioned there it's a mess. It is. Listen, the whole system's a mess, and the thing is, however we want to weigh it up, whether the referee's given the red card for the hand in the face without going to the monitor, then to have it overall with the decision of the use of VAR. The problem is, as you said there, it is being spoken about, and it does take over so many of Last Word on Spurs shows. I'm sure it takes over many of other opposition podcasts that do analyse games. And are we at a stage now, Darren? What are we now? I think we're in the second, third season of it. Forgive me. We shouldn't really be doing this. Should we be having to talk about it now? Why have we gone through this? What's the point?
We shouldn't be talking about it because the system is still flawed, and that's the problem. It's flawed on every level. And even though we was at home and we had a completely different perspective, we had no more information that made it make any more sense. And that is the biggest problem on it. That nobody, pundit, fan, even referee, no one has a clear understanding of what's going on. It's a joke. And I think one thing that I feel, if we're going to have a system that right now is a joke, I think what needs to happen right now, as in like next week, but they won't, but start of the next season, if they go ahead, is every referee has to be mic'd. We need to understand what is the conversation. That needs to be just like rugby, and it's clear to everyone in the stadium knows what is going on, so everyone then becomes really accountable for what is happening. I think they're hiding behind rules that don't fully make sense to justify very weird decisions. If they have to have the mic there going, I'm saying that I don't believe that what I just saw is a red card. Okay, what we're seeing tells us that everyone in the stadium is going, okay, now we all know what you guys are talking about. Now we can make a proper decision and a proper analytical based decision on what we've been given. Everyone now is just speculating, and that's frustrating because the rules are too grey. There's too many bits in the middle that don't make sense. You can clearly see that the referees don't get it. That is something that is very clear. We're watching referees doubt themselves, doubt what they're looking at, and that is concerning because football is all about what you see and what you do. I saw that. That's what I'm going to do to it. Now, we're looking at a camera's perspective. Oh, we're going to look at 17 angles of this. We're going to look at the ball's position, the hand position. It's too much. And I think if people can hide behind moving a mouse and not talk about it, that gives them way too much power and way too much influence in the game. They have to be mic'd. We have to hear what's happening in that studio, in the stadium. The refs have to be accountable. They've got to be saying what's happened. We're never going to get an interview from them, so they have to be live on the pitch. Yeah. That's what it needs.
Yeah, I must say there's so many in agreement with you in the comments there. Lots saying that something does have to change because we're having the same debates, and the argument is that there's so many interpretations and theories of what everyone has felt, what should have happened, what could have happened, how they've come to that decision. But arguably, Dale, as you just said there, none of us actually know. The only person that think they know is those officials that are on the field that have finally taken that decision 3 or 4 minutes after, going completely the other way. So if you're going to reverse the decision, I totally agree. For those that are in the stadium, for those that are watching at home, there does need to be some clarity there. So look, as we understand it, despite that VAR check having seemingly already taken place, Atwell was told to look at that pitch side monitor. He duly downgraded it to a yellow card. I mean, the only explanation you could argue is that if the man in the middle misheard the original call, it's just to get a further real emphasis and evidence just how shocking VAR is, and again the need for it to be resolved. And it's a bit like it's a bit like actually Atwell wanted VAR to actually give him the choice. That's how I feel. I think he actually wanted VAR to give him the choice to either overturn it, but that's not how the technology is actually used for in this situation, because he was about to get booked for the foul. And then surely the outburst required the second yellow. I think that's where the frustration is, that there's 2 acts of violent conduct. It's not 1, it's 2. And I think Spurs fans' minds, that is what warranted a red. But just to finish on more of a lighter note with the referee, there was a shirt change for the ref when the assumption was that he had gone for a shit. And
he went for a shit, mate. I'm telling you. He went for Eric Dyer. He went for Eric Dyer.
Given the referee didn't exactly have a low profile during the game, what a time after a VAR gaff then to think, oh, Joe, I want to go off to the loo now as well, which he claimed, that I say from his perspective, didn't happen, and the fans cheered. He went for a shit. He went for a shit, and he did follow the return.
He went for a turnout, mate, 100%.
You know what?
When he come back, he was doing his shorts up. He was
doing his shorts up. I'm telling you, he went toilet. 100%. He was going toilet.
Can I add one more thing, though?
Go on down.
I think also one thing that they need to do is there should be a time limit on how long the referral can last. It can't go on forever.
Yeah. I'm thinking about how long he's got to be. I think you mean he's got to be how long he's got to be in the bog for when you said it's got to be a rule, mate. He can't be there for longer than 5 minutes.
If you ain't finished, you've got to get out there.
Carry it in your hands.
Let's change sport. That might be more interesting. Be less heartbreak that way. Right, what we are going to do is we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners on audio. Some of these comments are just, cracking me up. You're going to hear from a delighted Oliver Skipp, who talks you through his first ever Spurs goal in the Premier League. And we're going to hear more from Ollie in this second or third part, should I say, of Last Word on Spurs. Macca, I always say on this show, and you get crackles, or you or Dal or Tal, you drop moments like that and you think, how do you carry on this show on the back of that? But we somehow find a way. What a way, Macca. What a way for Skippy to score his first Spurs goal, in the first team, I should add. Fans were singing his name, lovely celebrations, and you could actually see what that meant for him as a moment. You could see the delight in his face. And again, just lovely to see one of your own scoring. Lee, John, what a strike that is. Wonderful goal, right?
Fantastic goal, and it's set up quite nicely for him in his interview that you go and listen to, or the audio listeners are listening to in the break. That you would have heard him say about it, just set up quite nicely for him to hit, and he kind of hit across the ball, didn't he? And to see it go in, he actually describes it as he was waiting to see whether or not Kepa was going to save it or push it over the bar. But I don't think Kepa even saw it. He did try to put his hand there, but it was just an absolute rocket. And to go in off the bar as well, such a nice, I don't know why it's not a nicer goal in it when it just goes in off the bar as well. And fair play to him, because we started singing in the South. He's one of our own when he scored, because he actually is. I know it's Harry's song, but it can also be his. And then Ollie Skipp started pumping out, didn't it, Talia? And it was great. Ollie Skipp. And he's looking at that South stand, isn't he? When he's facing up the pitch, he's looking at that South stand, and we're all singing his name. Incredible moment for him. Academy player, banging, mate. He's 22 years old. Jobs are good, mate. He was. I don't know if I can say this because I sound like a bit of a dick, but I was proud of him. He's living the dream. You know what I mean? And I was proud of the fella
from the academy. Yeah, honestly, Macca, nothing wrong with saying that. Listen, he's Spurs boy, living a dream, playing for the club that ultimately you can tell he loves. And to bring it over to you, it was a lovely moment. There's the argument that it came after a poor clearance from Enzo Fernandez, but, an Emerson shot being saved. But that's still a wonderful strike from Skipp. You go watch that back. If Kane's scoring that, if Sonny's scoring that, if Rich is scoring that, we're purring. And I think that will give Skipp the wonderful, hopefully for him, levels of confidence now where he actually feels now, look, I've arrived. Start of last season, of course, as we know under Nuno, he got a brief run in the team. And I think it's been hard for him. Obviously, he's been out for a while. Injuries have really plagued him throughout his time at Spurs. But do you think today's that moment for him, Tal, where he thinks, you know what, I've arrived now and I do deserve to be in a Spurs starting 11?
Definitely. I think that he's a Spurs boy who loves the club, been here forever. He's just scored in a London derby against Chelsea in front of the South Stand, and his first goal for Spurs. I mean, your family are probably there. The crowd are cheering your name. You can't get much better than that as a player. And to have that as your kind of first real experience and love, whatever, That's incredible. And he will never, ever, ever forget that. And that, I think, is, just that level of reassurance of, this is why I've worked so hard and why I continue to work so hard, because, he hasn't had an easy run. He's been injured and he's still a baby. And, it was, we don't want to send you out on loan because you are good enough, but you're not getting the runs. And, mentally that is hard, because it's like, is my time coming? Whatnot. It's all, short stints, whatever. I think today for him was just pure elation. I think he's obviously thrilled that he's overcome this injury. I think, he went in the middle with Sarr, he kept his place with Pierre, he's kept it again. And, he had a few shots on target. I think last game we're all a bit like, oh, go on. But today, getting that goal, really cementing his name, I think is in dreamland. And I love that for him. And I think you're definitely not a dick for saying you're proud, because I think we all are to some degree. You want people to do well, especially the ones that truly love the club. And I think, Skippy is that. He is a little boy, and like we want him to be the next Kane, one of our own thing, obviously a completely different role. But I love that for him. And I'm smiling, singing that. Everyone was buzzing, a lot of people were still not back in the stadium. They're walking up. I heard quite a few people, because I sit on the aisle, being like, I'm gutted that they were downstairs. And you're like, yeah, fair enough, because it was so nice. And all the boys ran over to him, almost pushed him into the south stand. Everyone, Romero nearly killed him, jumping on him like that. It was hilarious. So no, I think it was just like such a lovely moment, and I really loved it. It was very wholesome. That's the word, wholesome.
I agree.
Talia, just quickly before we go over to Darwick as well, you mentioned Romero. I mean, I wasn't on last week when after the West Ham game, and when he booted Emerson, did anyone clock that? It's absolutely hilarious. He's just gone up to him, just smashed him in the arse with his foot. And he's just an animal, the bloke. Did you see the social media post of him tackling his kid? His son, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Guy's an animal. So when you score, you're expecting Romero just to come and punch in the face, aren't you?
You're into people or himself by celebrating. Like, he's that kind of guy, and I love it.
That maybe explains the reason why Richie and Sonny haven't scored many goals. They're just terrified what Romero might do to them in celebration, potentially. Dale, coming over to you, Skippy. Look, lovely moment for him. I think first ever for Spurs, second in professional club football. That just tells you how rare it is, a goal for Skippy. But you wouldn't have known that just due to the quality of that strike. But you know what, Dale? I don't know if you agree. He's really stepped up in the absence of Benton Core, thoroughly taking his chance. And again, that's Tottenham's first Premier League goal against Chelsea in that new stadium. Frightening when you think about that, isn't it, really, Dale?
Yeah, that's crazy when you say it out loud. And you know what? If you watch the goal back again, which we all will, the build-up play before that was phenomenal. The interchange between Richarlison, the ball moved beautifully, and you wanted the goal then. And then when it broke out from the save, and that it was such a clean strike. And you know what? As you quite rightly said, Lee, if you haven't seen the interview that Skipp does after the game with Kane, the humble nature of the kid, just like, look, I just caught it well. You know what I mean? I just like that, as you say, Talia, he's going to replay that forever. That moment he will never forget. And the confidence that gives him is going to be tremendous, because right now, as we say, our midfield, when you pulled out from playing, of course, there was a problem in the midfield, and Skipp has gone, I'm feeling that void. I've stepped in, and he's got it covered. And it's only going to be our benefit as Spurs fans on the pitch. We're going to benefit from what that will do for his confidence. And also, as we spoke about trust in players, now when he's at the edge of the box and he takes a shot, I know when you're new, and we all know that feeling, you don't want to take a risk. You're like, I don't want to upset anyone. I'll give it someone else to shoot. Now he's going to take another shot. Now he's going to chance his arm again. That confidence there, it's growing. And then people are going to say, go and have the shot. He's going to hear the South Stand are going to roar him on.
You said it, Dal, though. You're right. I mean, it's funny, Dal. I think you again in the second half was given another opportunity to shoot, and he was even being, paraded on by Spurs fans to shoot. It's exactly what you said there, that it's a confidence thing. As soon as you score a goal like that, there'll be fans willing you on to shoot, and I totally agree. Look, there's been some lovely mentions about Skipp during the years.
Sorry, Rick. That's what's been happening with Emerson as well, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah,
like now, every time Emerson's getting the ball, he's in that kind of inside right midfield. Everybody's got a shoot. He's lovely. He's been no-look passes in Chelsea's like £100 million players and stuff, and Emerson's just like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely loving a bit of Emerson. Go on.
Yeah. No, it is amazing. It is. I mean, again, when you look at that battle today, I must just say very quickly between Skipp and Fernandes, Chelsea spent 106.8 million. 106.8 million on the club record British signing of Enzo Fernandez. And I'll tell you what, next to Skipp, you wouldn't know between the two of them who was the 106.8 million. That's the biggest praise I can play to Oliver Skipp. He was phenomenal. But again, I think Lee said it earlier, he's 22 years old. Just remind yourselves of what some of the comments we've had. You know, Pochettino said, I think he can play like I think he plays like a 30-year-old man. Mourinho said, I see this kid being one day a future captain here. Conte said he could become a top midfielder. He has this desire to become an important player for Tottenham. Stellini said after the game, a brilliant moment for him, and one that we expected for 1 year, because it has been 1 year that he has stayed far from the pitch. Last season with physical problems, and this year for tactical decisions. He's ready because he's trained a lot and pushed himself. He's an amazing guy. Great player. A player like Skipp, he has to understand that if he trains a lot, he will have possibilities to show his value. And then even more so with that, Stellini wanted to say that this is an example of all the academy players who are working with a dream to play here. It shows it can be done. It's not easy, but you need to look at players like Skippy. And I think that's a really important comment to make there, that I actually saw an interview, I think, before the game with a former Spurs player, and I might just absolutely brutalise his surname, so please forgive me. I think Noni Manduki, who left Tottenham for Chelsea, obviously left Tottenham and went to PSV and has subsequently signed for Chelsea. And he made the point, he didn't feel at the time there was a process or a pathway through to that first team. And I think that regardless of whoever the manager's going to be right now...
They're definitely at Chelsea now. Breaking news, fella. You ain't getting in that Chelsea side. They just spanked 650 million, mate. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're getting in that Chelsea side. This is
the mad thing, isn't it? You know, you look at the fact for Tottenham now, I think we have to get to a point now under Conte, or if it's not under Conte, someone else, where for the young players that we are developing, there has to be a pathway. There simply has to be a pathway. And hopefully Skippy is, you know, a product of that to show for the rest of everybody else. And Harry, of course, Kane, who we're going to come on to in a second, that it can be done. There is a pathway, and it's just about ability and being good enough. There is no other, you know, agendas or anything as a side note. You can do it. And Skippy said on his goal, it was great. It's always a special one. And to do that in that game means a lot. I think I cut across it slightly. It wasn't completely clean. Again, Skippy very much playing down the emphasis of the goal and the quality of the strike, which it really, really was. Many alluded to the fact it was a lot like Danny Rose's goal, of course, against Arsenal. And I think the way Spurs managed that game was also very, again, keen to see. And it's very similar to that West Ham game where they went one in front, and it was almost about how can we add to this rather than be concerned about what's going to happen around the back door. We had Pedro Porro coming to the touchline like a fan. He was applauding the passes. He was encouraging the Spurs players. He was almost waving imaginary cards at one point, Pedro Porro. This is even before he even got on the pitch. But then that moment, Dal, come over to you, Harry Kane, goal number 268. And it was Sonny who come on and delivered that perfect corner, which is headed on by Dyer. And it's almost now becoming, Dal, that trademark Harry Kane finish. Lovely unmarked finish at the near back post, 2-0. And it's game, set and match, Dal, at that point, isn't it?
Game, set and match. King Kane does what he does. Beautiful. He didn't have the best game in Kane level, but when you need the goal, when you need the icing on the cake, there he is. And I think what you said about Skipp and Kane both being out of the academy, if you're in the academy, you can't wait to get in tomorrow morning, because you've now been given two players showing you that's what you can do. The Vines of this world, the ones who are knocking on the door. There is a route, there is a path. At Spurs, your name can be sung out in that stadium. That beautiful stadium, you one day can have what Skipp had today. And that path is always going to be open. If you're good enough, you'll get an opportunity. And that's a beautiful thing about our club and our fan base. And like you said, Lee, we are all proud. Every single one of us, we are all proud of Skipp. That doesn't make us less proud of anybody else. But Skipp today, our pride, our joy is with you. We all want to be at home. You're like family. We're happy for you. And we want you to flourish and continue growing. And that was a beautiful moment. And Kane, as I say, King Kane, he just does what he does. He does what he does. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Listen, I ain't going to stop smiling all week. No one can tell me nothing. West Ham, I don't care about our neighbours, because I know what's coming. And I'll look them in the eyes. I know what's coming. And when it happens, I'll be right here waiting for you.
You know what, Dal? You know what? You said about West Ham there, and then you said about Chelsea. Do you know what them two clubs have got in common?
I think they get battered everywhere they go.
Everywhere they go, everywhere they go.
You know what?
Come on to King Kane, just quickly a stat. Now, Arsenal being top of the league is kind of, is a bit sick, and it makes you, that sick that comes up into your back of your throat sometimes is it's a bit gross. But they're getting all the plaudits and whatever, and that's why we're having a bit of a shocking season, even though I've read out all the stats earlier and where we are in the top four and all that sort of stuff. Kane and Haaland. Now, there's weird things going on with the Kane and Haaland thing because Haaland is a freaking monster. The bloke has scored so many goals, it's absolutely ridiculous. But that aside, with Arsenal being top of the league, put them aside, put Haaland aside. Kane scored 18 Premier League goals this season. 18, right? I think there was a stat earlier, and I can't give you a shout out on the screen. If you're still watching, come back and let us know who it was. But it was Kane is the only striker to score 20 plus goals in a season for 9 seasons on the trot. I mean, that is absolutely outrageous.
I've got it here.
He's unbelievable. And
try to say back on that, just to read you out them: 31, 28, 35, 41, 24, 24, 33, 27, 20.
I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. And this is a guy, just last season, what was it? You said 20 this season. What was it last season?
27.
He scored 27 goals last season. He didn't score a Premier League goal until after November. Yeah. I think it was November the 3rd because of all the whole Man City stuff. This is why I'm backing Sonny still to get 15 Premier League goals. We thought that Kane might get around 15 last season. He ended up getting 17, didn't he? 17 Premier League goals. This is a guy that already has scored the same amount of goals as Ronaldo scored last season, top 3rd goal scorer. He's only 5 off of the Golden Boot winners from last season. If and I know he's a monster, he's a robot, he's a freak in the best possible way, Erling Haaland. If he wasn't about, Kane would just be getting everything.
Lee, can I join in you on that point?
Please.
What my spin on that is everything that Kane has achieved, Haaland is now aspiring to achieve. So let's not forget, give credit where credit's due. Kane is number 1. Haaland is growing into that. If you speak to Haaland, he will want to have the record that Kane had. He will want to go 9-10 seasons, scoring 30 goals. Everything that he's going to aspire to achieve, he's going to be looking at Kane. Who is going to be the top goal scorer in the Premier League? He will want to chase that. It will be Harry Kane. That's what people are forgetting. Haaland is a phenomenal player. But right now, King Kane. That's what we have to remember. He who wears the crown is him. Haaland is coming for it. You're a phenomenal talent, phenomenal player. You will grow and be great. But people, give Kane his flowers. He absolutely deserves it. The guy is world class.
Yeah, I mean, Tal, just bring you in there, Tal, on Harry Kane. That finish that we say, it's almost that trademark one. It's Arsenal 2022. It's Wolves back in August. That position he finds himself in. I think for England, for Tunisia as well, I think you have to go quite way back, maybe 2018. Kane finds himself in that position. It's not by luck, is it, Tal? That's, again, by really good judgment of knowing where you've got to be in the box. And he always seems to be in the right place at the right time, Harry Kane.
Harry Kane is the master of all masters. He is everything that everyone wants to be in a striker. We've said this a million times over, and we are blessed to have him leading our team. Even living in this era, to watch him, deliver such greatness is an honour, let alone, week in, week out, to be able to watch him in our club strip. It is an honour. Look, he's incredible, and he is Mr. Consistent. He has worked so incredibly hard. And I think that it's the reason why we're all so frustrated when it's, but he hasn't won a trophy. Fuck off. Don't care, right? Like, he is cementing his greatness all over the shop. People will chase him for however long to come. Of course, winning, incredible. Of course, he wants it, we want it, whatever. But his name is there, irrespective of what's surrounding it. He is the name to be. And he is who, not just Spurs players, it's strikers all over the world look up to. They're watching his comps on YouTube. They're wanting to learn from Kane. He will go down as a historical figure. So Kane is Kane, league of his own. He's incredible, and I'm sure he will continue to smash records. And he's not going to be like, oh no, I'm not going to win the Golden Boot. Haaland's here. Well, he's going to get on, do his best, score goals. And look, we'll trust him, rely on him, and it's great. But just, that is Kane. But for the goal, Dyer as well played his little part. Let's just get out there. Yeah. He, his little back shuffle bum thing, whatever was going on, intentional or not, I don't know, but I enjoyed it and it got the assist. So
listen, does the job. Whatever we've got to do, it does the job. And just on Kane, as you mentioned there, Tal, as well, he becomes the first Spurs player to score home and away league goals against Chelsea in the same season since Gary Lineker. in 1991. Now, I've been massively critical of Kane of maybe not stepping up and scoring against the big sides. Well, he's done that against Chelsea now. I mean, you could argue maybe say Chelsea aren't a big side right now. They're a mid-table side. So maybe that completely discounts that stat.
No.
But again, Kane, for me, you look at this season, the goals he's scored and who they've been against, does still score big goals. And Harry, great performance from him. He said after the game, Chelsea have been a difficult opponent for us over the last few years. So it's a really, really important win to keep us around fourth. Overall, I thought we deserved it. It was an unbelievable goal from Skippy. And what a time to get your first. He's been working so hard. So it was nice to see that one fly in. And he finally finished up by saying, look, another clean sheet, 2 goals. So overall, really good performance. It just feels that everybody, I think, as Talia, you've said as well, everybody's now taking real accountability for their own performances, what they need to do during Antonio's absence. And again, I can only speak highly of all those players. That there's a number of those that we're, again, I've said about on this show that there's some real big characters in that Spurs dressing room, many that actually are captains of their own respective country. And there is now an expectancy on those players to help Spurs finally deliver trophies. And I've said that again, that word trophies, they do really need to. And lovely man for Pedro Porro. He came on for his home debut, replacing Richarlison, who, to be fair, looked disappointed with coming off. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. Again, it just shows you, maybe from a player's perspective, what he wants to achieve. I want to see that.
Rick, one for Talia as well, because obviously you were there. So it was quite some funny moments at the beginning, weren't there, when Pedro Porro come on, because there was a lot of, shall we say, a lot of chants around Pedro and João Felix's other half going around the stadium, which you probably didn't. Yeah, you probably didn't pick up on
We picked up on those. We did.
You did? Oh, yeah, it was quite funny. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting.
Funny.
Yeah, no, it really, really was. But I say, I mean, the big thing for Tottenham is huge win. It does consolidate 4th place for Tottenham in the Premier League. And next up for Tottenham, it is FA Cup time at Sheffield United. So what we are going to do...
Really, before we go for your break, just quickly, because I know you want to go to Sheffield United, so just quickly, but I just want to mention a couple of players that we ain't spoken about, right? Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
My apologies. I was going to, Højbjerg. Longley also deserves a mention. Please do. Yeah, please do.
Look, I thought again he was absolutely outstanding in what he actually did today. Skipp's getting all the plaudits because he was brilliant and fair play to him, and obviously scoring a goal. But Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, I mean, I love the bloke. I've got a man crush on the geezer. I think he's absolutely awesome. I would love to meet Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. He, for me, is that proper, he's the Viking, right? He's that proper battling
leader, general, lieutenant. Yeah,
I love him.
I agree. He worked hard. I mean, George, just on shout-outs, Macca. Go on, go your next one.
And just Emerson Royale, because I know we've spoken about him throughout the show, but the fact that Pedro Porro came on to make his home debut in a forward position just goes to show, I know we touched upon it earlier, didn't we? But just goes to show that Emerson is king. He is Royale. Like, it's just, the transformation in the bloke is just, it's heartwarming, to be fair. And, like, fair play to him on that. So, I think we all played well today. I don't think there was a bad performance across anyone. No. There was a comment earlier saying that we were woeful in the first half. That's incorrect. We had a game plan in the first half, you know what I'm saying, Hartman, and we did it really well. And in the second half, we come alive. Like, I'm not saying we played champagne football in the first half. We didn't, but we wasn't woeful. I think we did well.
And also, Macca, just to add to that as well, at least we aren't giving teams a 2-0 head start, because the minute you do that, it's impossible to come back. And we have stopped that now, haven't we, Macca, to some degree?
I think we have. And I know we spoke about Romero and stuff earlier, but mate, when last season, again, it's so weird. Go back and check the books. Go back and look at the stats. He was yellow carding, all erratic. Somebody's had a word with him. And then for the rest of the season, didn't get booked. For the last 2 games, he ain't been booked. He's been absolutely brilliant. Somebody put a stat on earlier that because he didn't play against Leicester, did he, Romero? He didn't play against Leicester. But all the clean sheets are coming since Romero's been back at top form. And he is quality, the bloke. Absolute quality.
He's the glue. Yeah. We need him. I think everyone's receptive of him. He's the gold standard. Like, he's it. I was also just going to say before we move on, I think the mentality in games like today just prove how far we've come, because a lot of the time, that red card fiasco and the little mini brawl could have sent us along, a few years ago in a whole new direction. And I think today, everyone was super professional, didn't let it get to anyone. It was very much like step back. You can just tell And I think it was a really professional performance, and it did definitely kind of prove that we have come a long way, which I think is a really positive outlook to the VAR dramas.
Totally.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad if we don't mention Decky because we've mentioned everyone else so quickly.
No, listen, Decky. Yeah, Decky. I mean, Darren mentioned. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think he's like? I was saying this to Steph and a car on the way home. Like, do you think he's a bit gangly? Like, he looks a bit like gangly. And
I'm not sure, Mac, if he's carrying an injury still.
No, I don't mean that horribly. I don't mean that horribly. He does his thing. He gets the ball on his right foot, and then it kind of stroke the ball with his right foot, ready to get it on his left. Or he's so strong, isn't he? Like, and once he gets it into his left foot, he can just turn anyone. I think he done 3 Chelsea players in the first half. I thought he'd done 3 Chelsea players in that first half. And that second half, he had the bit between his teeth again. He gets out of spaces where you think he's not going to get out of, and he just does. Like, that's what I mean about gang. I don't mean it rudely to him. It just feels like he can't do that. He can't. Yeah. And then he does it, and you think, has he done that? Do you get what I mean?
No, I agree. Go on, Dan.
I know you got to move on. We will do with Decky. What I've said, and I've said it a number of times on here. Fans, you can go back and watch the footage. I've got my receipts. When Emerson and Kulusevski play together, that understanding between them on that side is growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And the support they give, teams don't want to play against that side for Spurs. We are a dangerous opposition, that side, because what Emerson does is he says to Decky, go forward, don't worry about coming back. I've got this. Defensively, I've got this. And the way they link up and the overlap now is starting to work. It's all clicking. It's clicking. It's clicking.
He was playing as a winger. Somebody's put in the comments there. King Hoddle said, reminds me of Waddle in the way he draws defenders in. And today he was very wide. That was, Emerson Royale wasn't doing any overlaps at all. He was going inside, wasn't he? Playing as an inside right midfielder. And also backing that up into a 3. So instead of us getting overrun in midfield with a 2, Emerson Royale was coming in almost as a 3. So he was almost like an inside right wing back, which has also enabled him to get up and down the pitch almost quicker because he's not having to go wide and then come back in. And where he's defending, he's tucking in from the defending as well and letting Decky do some of that work. So I agree. When they're when that Romero, Emerson and Decky down that side does seem very strong. It'll be very interesting to see when Porro comes in, how that dynamic changes. Because I think this geezer's got pace to burn. He's going to start flying down that wing.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I agree. Well, listen, before we do look ahead to Sheffield United, I think as Tal mentioned, shout out to Eric Dyer. That was Eric Dyer I think we saw when Conte first really came in on board and got a tune out of him. Whether that continues, I know there's a lot of reports right now flying around that Eric Dyer may be offered a new contract by the football club. I know many feel that is that the right move to make? Again, it's probably a topic for another show, just given the time constraints that we're up against here. But we'll have to wait and see how that does materialise with Eric Dyer. He has only got 18 months left on his contract. Spurs might argue that essentially they want to retain some form of value on him. There'll also be that argument that, quite frankly, is Eric Dyer good enough for a Premier League club? Fraser Forster, I think as we've said throughout the show, look, he did what he had to do well today, was commanding of the box, I would say. I think as Tal said, it keeps things very simple, doesn't overcomplicate things in and around his own box. So I shout out to him. Longley as well, I think, look at the left of the back 3. Him and Davis. And Davis, again, I'll mention, look, 300 appearances for the football club. He was great. I think, again, when you're doing a show like this, it's just a team performance. There's so many. Listen, when you feel like you're leaving a player out, you feel bad for leaving a player out. But quite frankly, everybody on that pitch today fully deserves to be mentioned. And I think we have done. Skippy, Højbjerg will rightly take plaudits. Kulu worked hard. Richarlison worked hard. Sonny came on and was unlucky to score within minutes of coming on. Porro coming on. We saw a few strong runs down the wing. So look, let's hope that is essentially what we've got to look forward to. But what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of the show. For our listeners and audience.
Can I just? No, I'm joking.
I'll tell you. Somebody I've got as much control of this as I have in my life. I think they're absolutely spot on. A complete lack of control on Last Word on Spurs. Today's a break. You're going to hear from the Sheffield United Way podcast to give you their thoughts ahead of this game. And just a nice time to bring to you a reminder that we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Nord, of course, allows you, wherever you are around the world, to tune in to whatever your virtual location settings are and get the very best content of wherever you may be. Many use this as an option to save some money on Netflix or YouTube Premium, or again, when Spurs are playing in and out of countries, it does give you that great option. So make sure you go and check Nord out, nordvpn.com/LWOS. Go and check those guys out. Right. Guys, many will call this the biggest game of our season. It is, in my eyes, the FA Cup. I am an old romantic. I want to see Spurs take all the trophies as serious as they can do. So, Darren, let's start with you. You are back with us, of course, for this game on Wednesday. A huge, huge game for the football club. Many have said, for me, it's the biggest game of the season. Does that rank how far it is for you, Darren, in terms of the context of you as a Spurs fan for the season?
Yeah, for me, I would say our biggest game is always our next game. I wouldn't say this is our biggest game of all, but I'll go, it's the most important one because it's our next one. And what it can do for the momentum that we've built, let's keep going on it. Because we all want to see that trophy. We all want it. And I think we're going to see rotation. The squad now has got that level where we should be rotating the squad. And we should be winning this game. I am very confident. You know me, people. I'm always going to be confident. I'm very confident about this game. I will be back on after it. And I shouldn't be in a position where Spurs are making me feel any way but happy. That's what should be happening. After today's performance, with the players that didn't play today should be coming in, we should absolutely win this game. Come on, Spurs, don't let me down. This is what we should be doing now. It's the business end of the season. Just do the business.
Yeah, I agree. It is a massive, massive game. And Talia, to bring over to you to get your thoughts on it. Sheffield United currently second in the Championship. They look very much on course for promotion at the moment. I know they cut the back-to-back defeats, but they seem to have now got their season back on track, as always they would do just before facing Spurs. What do you make of it for you, and how important does this rank for you in the context of Spurs' season, the FA Cup?
I think, look, it's obviously incredibly important because it's a cup, right? We're still saying that we're sitting in fourth, we're in the FA Cup, we're in the Champions League. You know, to a degree, everything's equally as important. And I think Darren's right in saying that, you know, the next game is always going to be the most important. But I agree, look, it's winnable. You know, up until now, we've been able to do a good cup run. We haven't had to, you know, risk any players or been injured or, you know, do anything crazy. I think Sheffield United are a good fixture. You know, of course, that's not to say that, you know, they're an easy side and whatnot. You know, like you just said, they're second in the league. They're doing bits. You know, they are and have been a Premier League side in the last few years. So, you know, they're definitely up and around there. But, you know, you have to back ourselves in that. And there are definitely a lot harder fixtures out there. And I think, you know, we do have to take that. And you think, look, if we get through that game, look where we are. That has to be a priority because it is a route to a cup, not final. Bit wishful thinking there, but it is the route to a trophy. And that is what we need. So it is extremely important. So yeah, no, I think it's good. Look, I do think we will be forced into a few changes just because the games are thick and fast. And I don't think, you know, there'll be huge priorities. I think everything's equally a priority for the club, I would imagine. But like we said, it goes back down to the squad. So I expect some changes, but I expect a strong team because it's important. We want to win. Conte wants to win. The club want to win. What a better opportunity than to start on Wednesday. Got to win.
Yeah. I will come back to Dale just for his prediction in a second. But Tal, for you, will Spurs progress and advance in the FA Cup?
Yes. If not, I think we've really missed something there. I think we absolutely can and should be winning that game. And if we don't, it's an upset for us.
Do you think also, just very quickly, in terms of changes or lack of changes, what would you be looking to do to that starting lineup? Because I think, you know, you want to set the precedent and the intention that we're going there to win without making many changes. Is that how you see it as well?
Definitely. I think there does need to be some changes. I think I'd expect Sonny to start, definitely, you know, and you could see him, you know, play slightly more up front with the likes of some new, you know, the Dan Jumas and stuff coming in. But I think the back, you know, few won't really change. I think we might see Perisic, etc., come in, maybe Cess. But I think, you know, the back three, whatever, I think will probably remain. I think midfield will probably be the same. I think, look, it depends how you go. You either start super strong, the game plan is go out, score as early as possible and hope that we can take people off around the 70th minute mark. Or it will be, I trust this squad. We're going to start strong, but we're giving Kane and, you know, maybe one or two other players of rest, but they're there if we need them. But I think either way, it's going to be a strong lineup. I think at least, you know, 8 or 9 of our 11 from today will be in or around that squad for sure. Because we need to win and you can't underestimate them. You know, it's not a League Two side, or if it was Wrexham, you know, look, no disrespect, I would absolutely have loved to have got Wrexham. I love Wrexham, but then you'd think you can rotate and you'd still feel strong, but you can't underestimate a team like Sheffield United. But I think as a Premier League side sitting in the top 4 with a lot of fixtures, you've got to balance that, and you back ourselves that we should be able to play Porro and Sonny and stuff and do the job, get those minutes in the legs of people that need it, and still get the win. But
absolutely. Tal, to see us advance, Dal, I should have asked you, give us your prediction also, Dal, how you feel we should, I'm going to close off with Lee, how you feel, Dal, for you, we should approach the game in terms of changes, maybe in-game, and also from a substitution perspective, how you feel we should line up in this one. Would you make a number of changes or not really touch it?
You know what? I would make changes. And the reason why, because as Talia quite rightly just said there, playing people like Son, Danjuma and Pedro Porro, these are players that if you 2 out of that 3 were starters. So our squad now is a better squad. Before, when we rotated, I had heart attacks. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're playing. And
it's
I think
B team, whereas now it's not a B team. It's
100%. That's right. It's a squad game. It's a squad game. So today we played 1-11 that done the job, done it well. I think already there would have been conversations to know who will be rotated around. I think we can stop the drop line. Oh, you got dropped. Who's going to be rotated? And I think we'll rotate Kane out. We'll rotate Son in. I think Danjuma will probably get a rotation in. I think Pedro Porro will get a rotation in. Emerson will step down. And I think we'll have a strong bench because now we've got a stronger bench. And if we need to enforce the team and go hard, then we will do. And Kane, he'll travel. I think he'll definitely travel. He'll sit there with the jacket on and he'll be like, look, I'm here if you need me, but I shouldn't need to. It should be a day off for me. And I think that would be my approach. And score prediction, I think we'll win 2-0. I'm going to call it.
Okay. It's interesting there, Macca, isn't it? You get the thoughts of Tal and Darren about how they would approach the game, and Dal suggesting maybe resting Kane. You've got Danjuma to maybe as an option there, Sonny, Richarlison. Do you worry maybe, Lee, if we do rest Kane, that maybe sets the wrong precedent to Sheffield United, that maybe we're not fully invested? How do you see it now? Or are you of the mindset that the group we've got now should all be capable and good enough now of beating a Sheffield United side, which, no disrespect, they are in the Championship. They are going well in the Championship, but really the squad we've got now should be capable enough and good enough of getting a result.
Back 3, Ben Davis, Eric Dyer, Christian Romero. The 4, Sessegnon, Winks, Højbjerg, Doherty. And the front 3, Son, Kane and Kulusevski. And in goal, Lloris. That was the team that started against Middlesbrough on guess what date? You literally couldn't make this up. On 1st of March, 2022. It's literally exactly the same. So I was saying to you earlier, it's like the freaking Twilight Zone. It's literally on the same day and everything, right? That was the team. You can't say that weren't strong. That was our strongest team that we had available to us last season because Emerson wasn't playing very well. And the bench was Reguilon, Sanchez, Royale, Joe Roden, Galini, Bergie, Harvey White, Dane Scarlett, who came on, by the way, and Alfie Devine. Now, I would say that we've improved the squad. I'd say that bench that we've all just been talking about, the team, the 11, the big squad, rather than just being dropped. You got Danjuma to come on. You got Lucas Moura to come on. You got Richarlison to come on at that front 3. In the middle now, you've got Sarr, or you've got Skipp, or you've got Højbjerg. Ben Davis playing well on the left wing. Got Pedro Porro's brand new signing. So I think we've got more in the tank than what we had last time. But we all know what happened last time. The statistics from last time were absolutely ridiculous as well. 15 shots, 6 on target we had. But we had less possession than Middlesbrough, which is a Championship side. We made less passes than Middlesbrough, which is a Championship side. And the biggest stat of all that matters is that we lost 1-0. So anyone that's listening, the players, the coach, stuff, play the game. Have a look. You do not turn up on Wednesday and do what you did last year against Middlesbrough. This is our biggest game of the season happening right now, and we need to go out there and win. And I'm not that worried about who starts. If it's, I think Kane will probably start. He's our captain now, so he's not just not our captain anymore, is he? He's our captain, so he probably does start. I think it'd be up to him. Boss, I'm ready to play. I want to play again. I want to get us through. But if they do rest Kane and give him a little bit of rest with the jacket on, as Hartman said, and he's waiting and he's watching, then I would like to see Richarlison start up top.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'd like to see Danjuma. Sorry, Tal, go on.
No, I was going to say that's the point, right? Like, we bought these players because, you know, for so long it was Kane has to play, Kane has to play, Kane has to play. No one wants to be second to Kane, blah, blah. We didn't go for a, you know, a B-Tech striker. We went for Richarlison, who starts for Brazil and, you know, was leading his line. He's more than good enough to play. He's more than good enough to play as a number 9 in the Premier League, or, you know, like, just for argument's sake, he is. So he should be able to lead the line going into Sheffield United, and we shouldn't have to be like, oh, Kane has to start. Of course, Kane is top tier king, but he does need a rest. And I think we should all be like, yeah, if Richarlison starts, that's not like a down.
I also think it could make him, Tal. I think if you start Richarlison, the pressing that we would get from the tip of the you know, from our number 9 position would be huge. Like, we would get much more pressing against Sheffield United. Like, that gap's going to be rocking, mate. Bramwell and
they're going to be up for it. They're going to be up for it. 100%.
Stadium. They're flying. They're basically a Premier League side, aren't they? Let's be honest about it. They're flying in the Championship. They're going to come up. They're 22nd, are they? 22nd in the pyramid. Do you know what I mean? So it's not really like a lower level team. But we've got to. Yeah, exactly. I think we've got to take our lessons from Middlesbrough. We didn't take our lessons from Burnley after Man City because we did a Leicester after Man City. We have to take the lessons. Go and have a look. Go and watch some videos. Go and get it in the front of your mind that this means everything to us, and we want you to put out. If it means that we lose against Wolves, then I'll lose against Wolves. If it means that we get through the FA Cup in the midweek, but I don't think we're going to lose.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't think we're going to lose against any of them because I think we're better than them. I think we've got a better squad than both teams, and I think with the right attitude, and the momentum that we've got, I think we can go out and win. So I'll give you my prediction now. I'm going up there. I'm mega excited. I'm driving up on the afternoon. We're staying over, and so I'm going to probably have a couple of beers. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going with Hartman. I'm going 2-0. 2-0 Tottenham Hotspur. Why not? We've won the last 2 games 2-0. Let's make it 3 in a row.
Why not? Alex, go on, Tal. Go for it.
I was going to say, to end that off, I think it's mindset for me. Like I said, we've come this far. We wanted it more today. And I truly hope that we've looked back at last year and all the previous years, and we didn't want it as enough, or we underestimated that team because they were a League One side or a Championship side or whatever. It's now we need to win. We're good enough to beat whoever's in front of us. Let's win. It shouldn't be a sacrifice of, oh, we can't win against this one or this one. We're Tottenham. We want to win a trophy. We want to get top 4. We've got enough players to rotate, not rotate. We trust who we are. Let's go. Let's win. That's
awesome.
Totally agree. Alex on the screen says, I don't care if Arsenal win the league. I only care about us winning. Simple as that. Let not down the road. Don't live in my head. And Josh Jordan says here, looking at Conte's Insta post, you can tell he's so still invested within the club and the fans. I really think he could stay beyond the end of this season. I think, again, these questions here that we have right now,
just on that,
Josh, aren't they, Macca? Yeah.
Ricky, just what Josh Jordan said there on the screen, I think that's very interesting because I think with the Conte scenario, and this is a whole nother show, and I know you're probably gagging to, and I know most people think that you're gagging to go and see your newborn son, but you're probably most gagging to go and see like a recoupling or whatever it is on Love Island, to be honest.
Couple of minutes.
There you go. But I think the situation with Conte, I think it's a little bit more around, can he deliver? I think if he delivers something for us or gets us there, I think he stays even further in. Do you know what I mean? And the FA Cup, everyone's saying in the comments, Dan Freeman, we can win the FA Cup, but we have to beat Sheffield United. So let's go get it done.
Absolutely. Well, guys, always a pleasure. Macca, thank you so much as always, bud. Always a pleasure having you on. Thank you, mate. We'll be back this very soon. The wonderful Lee McQueen there in Sheffield. Go and say hello. Go and give him a hug. Hopefully, you won't be hugging him too much after the result, and it'll be lots of party and lots of love. Tal, thanks so much for having you back on. We'll have you back on hopefully very soon. Thank you so much for your time, Tal.
I hope so. Thank you, as always. I love it, as you all
honestly
know.
Tal, where can everyone find your comments on Spurs, your thoughts on Spurs? Where can they go?
Talia Coren _ on Twitter, because I always say, unfortunately, I'm nowhere near as somebody as a lot of these people. I'm just a plain old scientist. So
don't put yourself down
and honestly, give your opinions, and that's all I've got to offer.
Honestly, love having you on, Tal. Always a pleasure having you back on soon. Make sure you go give Macca a follow at Lee McQueen, of course, across the socials. And the wonderful Darren Hartman. I'd say Darren normally does bring a positive result when he comes on Last Word on Spurs. Hence why I've tried to book him probably every week that comes to the end of the season now. Dale, thank you so much, mate. And where can everybody check out your dulcet tones, or where can everybody find you on the socials?
Listen, My wife had gone crazy towards the end, so I hope I'm my screen. But you guys awesome. You can find me on all social medias at Original Hartman. I'm probably appearing on an advert on some channel, sending you something right now. I'm out there, keeping busy. But I love you, Rick. Love you guys. Always for being there.
We love you, brother. We love you, brother. Listen, from the wonderful Mr. McQueen, from the superb Talia Hartman, from the brilliant Darren Hartman, Talia.
We just got married,
We've got sorry.
We're not married, are we?
You can tell I need the laggers sleep.
Mate, there's a lot of love going on, people. There's a lot of love going on.
You can tell we had about you can tell we had 2 hours sleep, can't you, the last couple of nights?
Yeah, well, I had a wedding and I didn't even know about it, and I definitely don't have a ring, so something's wrong.
I'll fix that. Apologies, I'll fix it.
Yeah, that'll be sorted there. Down the background from the wonderful Mr. McQueen, from the brilliant Talia Coren, from the superb Mr. Darren Hartman. We've been the last one on Spurs, guys. As always, please keep safe, keep well. We're back with you for Sheffield United. Come on, you.